As President Obama pushes to close Guantanamo Bay, the move continues to threaten American lives. A senior Defense Department official telling Congress that Americans have been killed by released Gitmo inmates.
Let me ask you this. We say that about 30% or whatever that figure is that have been released have returned to terrorist activities. How many lives have been lost by those terrorists who went back to their terrorist activity? How many lives?
I can talk about that in a classified setting, but
oh, it's classified.
Yes.
Oh, so is it over 10?
Sir, what I can tell you is, unfortunately, there have been Americans that have died because of Gitmo detention.
How many Americans?
There you go. Joining us right now is former Navy SEAL and co-author of Extreme Ownership, How U.S. Navy SEALs Lead and Win, Leif Babin. Good to see you, Leif. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me, Marie.
What's your take on this whole debate? I mean, here, obviously, we see the numbers that a number of Guantanamo Bay inmates have been released and joined the fight again.
It's just ridiculous to be talking about this. I mean, the fact that the president has made this his personal mission, and he believes that things like Guantanamo Bay are the cause of why terrorists hate us. It's really puzzling. That's clearly not the case. And you know, the idea this is used as a recruiting tool is ridiculous. We've got to have places that we can hold. These are bad people. They're bad folks. They're not going to be rehabilitated. And of course, if we release them on the battlefield, they're going to go out and kill more Americans.
Right. So what do you think the answer is? I mean, is it? Are there places that you would be able to house these inmates away from Guantanamo Bay? Where will they go?
Well, I think we actually have to make the tough decision to have a military tribunal for these folks and actually try them and sentence them. And of course, folks like Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, who's been in Guantanamo Bay now, the professed mastermind of 9/11. I mean, he deserves the death penalty. There's no reason that you know, the fact that he has not yet been executed, I think, is a real stain on American honor. And yet, so we have to figure out a way to do that and make that happen, and the politicians to make the tough decisions.
But, Leif, I mean, Gitmo is certainly an important discussion to have, but I think much more pressing and much more important as it relates to the fight against ISIS and al-Qaeda is what's happening in Syria and Iraq. And until we have a solution there, I mean, Gitmo, a few people going back, it's certainly a bad thing, but we need a political solution. We need a military solution in Syria. Do you agree?
I do, certainly, but it's easy to throw that out there, right? I mean, I think what we can do we have to attack the caliphate that they call themselves, right? Exactly. The Islamic State. And so I think you're absolutely right that when you're talking about where their power comes from is this claim that we are the caliphate, and there's a big draw across the world from foreign fighters to join their cause, to conduct attacks like the ones we just saw in Brussels. So we have to actually take this problem on, and the real estate really matters, and we have to actually go in there and destroy ISIS there.
The policies that the president has put in place over the last 7.5 years, are they reversible from your point of view? Meaning, if we got somebody in there that had a different sense for the national security, how long would it take to reverse some of these policies?
That's a good question.
I think it's a great question. It's difficult. I mean, I think the longer these have gone on, I mean, if we'd have handled the ISIS problem 2 years ago, it would have been a much easier problem.
5 years ago when Syria went into civil war.
Very true.
If they'd listened to you, talk about the problem developing.
Well, then why didn't they listen, though? Let's speed them for a second. So they got the truce force recommendation.
It's an ideology.
Is that what it is?
Well, I think what we have is leadership that just does not recognize the threat. Will not actually even name the threat of this radical Islamic ideology. And so I think when you're calling ISIS the JV team and you're still insisting that they're not an existential threat to America or Western Europe.
And that they're on the run. Terrorists are on the run.
Just yesterday.
Exactly. Is it more insidious than that some people believe somehow after 9/11 that this is due us, that this is coming to us because of our role in the world? Isn't that even more dangerous and disgusting? And
the president actually made some comments in Cuba. If you remember the baseball game, he made some comments about how this is, you know, no matter what your political thoughts are, there's no means of justifying this. It's beyond the pale, or something to that effect. And so almost kind of validating that they do have some kind of political argument, which is that's just insane.
It's absolutely insane. And it's important to bring up and constantly put the spotlight on that. I agree with you, Dagan.
There was one thing you could do, you could change from a policy perspective right now. What would it be?
I would have U.S. combat troops leading the fight in Syria and Iraq, and I think we could very shortly clean up that problem, turn it over to a local force that we would, the local people who can actually stand up and prevent ISIS from coming back in there.
You've got a special War Stories with Oliver North coming up on Fox News.
We do. It's going to air Friday night at 10 p.m. Eastern.
Fighting ISIS.
Fighting ISIS, and I'm excited to tell people the evil that ISIS really is, and they can actually see behind the scenes.
That you saw firsthand.
Absolutely.
How can people look at Brussels? And we had somebody on this morning and said that look at Brussels and look at Paris and look at the atrocities in Syria and Iraq and say this is the new normal. We just need to learn to live with it. How can somebody say that?
I think it's someone who doesn't intend to deal with a problem or even acknowledge the problem, as we just talked about. But if we get the right leaders who understand the nature of this enemy, I think that we absolutely can reverse the current situation, and I don't think it takes. It's certainly not something that can be handled in a matter of months. I think we can do massive damage to ISIS and really deal strategic.
Just have to change the rules of engagement. See, that's what General Campbell said when I was in Afghanistan in October. The rules have manacled the troops. It's made it very difficult for them to do the things that he thinks we need to do to wipe these guys out.
They need to get the rules to do it. They need to get the right rules. Thank you, Leif.
Thanks for having me.
Leif Babin is the author of Extreme Ownership, How U.S. Navy SEALs Lead and Win. We'll see you soon.
Change your life, that book.
Exactly.
It'll change your life. I kid you not.